relate.
I don't love having a mic a lot of the time. I'm more of a conversationalist, as you guys will see. So thanks for coming to hear me talk today. My name is Jen Brown. Can you hear me? Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Jen Brown. I am a mom, first of all. My greatest accomplishment has been raising my child, I think. I'm a wife, and I'm also a cancer survivor. And I've had quite a journey with cancer. So I thought I'd share a little bit about myself and my journey with cancer. I know we're here to talk about RSO and CBD, how I learned about RSO, how I use it, how I help others use it, and then we'll answer some questions. Does that sound good? Okay. So again, I'm Jen. I'm 55 years old, and I always like to mention my age because I've earned every year that I get, and I'm grateful and blessed to have it. But I also share it because my first diagnosis of cancer was when I was 22. So it's been a long road. For 28 years, I had cancer on and off. At first, it would be maybe 4 years between each diagnosis. And then it became 3 years and 2 years. And then finally, it was just constant. So the last 15 years prior to just recently, I basically had chronic cancer all the time. I've had 9 different types of cancer. I have a genetic disorder, basically, of chronic cancer. So what was happening is every time we would go fight and try to cure the cancer, we would, but it would come back somewhere else. It had a mind, literally mind of its own in my gene pool and in my body. So we just never could get ahead of it. Every time we thought we got ahead of it, it would come back somewhere else. And it was all primary cancers. So I've had 9 different types of primary cancers, which is really not the norm. It's not common. And again, when I first got diagnosed, it was many, many years ago before they started doing genetic testing and looking at the genetic predisposition of cancers. And so about halfway through my journey, we finally took a look at that when we really learned more about the genetic role of cancers and being able to really learn from them and kind of pinpoint what's going on in our bodies. They did discover that I do have this weird gene deformity that gives me chronic cancer. There's 44 people of us in the world, apparently. That's what I've been told. So lucky number, whatever I am. So anyway, I bring all this up because I don't want people to be afraid if you get diagnosed with cancer once, it means you're going to get it 9 more times. It's unique in my body. So I always want to make sure you guys know that. But let's just talk about cancer. Did anyone in here have cancer ever? Do we have any cancer survivors in here? So I can really let you guys know it sucks. The treatment is worse than the disease. I got more sick from the chemo, from the radiation, from the surgeries. More complications came from all of it than I ever wanted or would have anticipated or ever even thought could happen. So about 6 years ago, my doctor said to me, Jen, we can't keep giving you this chemo. We can't keep giving you this radiation. We're actually killing you now at this point. The risk reward is no longer on our side. So we have to stop all treatment. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds kind of great. I'm tired of the treatment anyway. And I said, so what does that mean? And he said, it means you're going to be dead in 6 months, probably. And I was like, okay. Because at that point, we were dealing not just with all the primary cancers that we seem to be able to navigate, but a couple of them metastasized. So I had like the perfect storm or imperfect storm, however you want to look at it, going on in my body. So I remember coming out of that appointment going, wow, I must be really sick. I mean, you would think 28 years of cancer, I would have known I was really sick, shaved my head 15 times at least. And, I just was like, what am I going to do? My daughter was in middle school and I had to figure it out. So a friend of mine had been talking to me about this product called Rick Simpson oil. Is anyone familiar with Rick Simpson oil here? Yeah. So a friend of mine told me, and I was like, I can't do marijuana. No, I never smoked pot. I don't do it. And you guys will love this. I work in the pharmaceutical industry at the time. No longer. I've crossed sides to the right side, but I was working in the pharmaceutical industry as well in correlation with my journey, 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry, and we would get drug tested. So marijuana was never even on my radar because of that. And I said, I can't, my job, I'll get fired. And she looked right at me and she said, what good is your job if you're dead? And I was like, I guess that's a valid point. So I went on the Rick Simpson journey and learned all I could about it. So Rick Simpson oil is an oil that was created by a man, Rick Simpson, in Canada. He was a marijuana grower in Canada, and he had a melanoma, so he treated his own cancer with this oil that he made. Officially it has to be about, I think, anything above 65%. But they're making Rick Simpson oils now that are in the 80% of THC. It's a straight THC product, basically. And there's many of us, myself included, I think mine tests in that I get at about 88% THC. So it's not fun. It's really intense. And it's so strong that you have to start with your first dose is the size of a piece of uncooked rice. That's how little you start with. I'll tell you a funny story. When I started, I got my stuff. Let's back up. So I said, I'm going to try this RSO. I'm going to try it. I have nothing else to do. I'm going to try it. So I worked with someone, got my RSO. I was ready to start it. I was feeling really proud. I'm like, I'm taking control of my disease now. No more people telling me what to do. I'm doing what I want to do. It's going to save my life. And I was feeling super optimistic about it and excited about it. So I was like, well, a grain of rice. I mean, come on. I've done chemo, I've done radiation, I've done all this stuff. I can do way more than a grain of rice. I did about half of a gram of it. A gram is in a syringe. My first time. Anybody who knows anything about RSO knows that was probably the stupidest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
And the best at the same time.
Well, once I got through it, I hallucinated. I was like pacing the house. I was throwing up. It was horrible. I thought I was gonna die. I was like, oh my God, this is it. I'm going down. I fought all these years with cancer. I finally figured this out and I'm going down on my first treatment. I'm gonna die tonight. There's no way I'm surviving this. Obviously, we all know we don't die. We just feel like we want to sometimes. But I made it through. So I paced my dining room table, calling out my daughter's name. I don't know why. Paced my dining room table like a lunatic for about half an hour. Then I had my head over the kitchen sink, and in my brain, I was playing this game. I was like, oh, okay, a game at the carnival. But then all of a sudden, the game at the carnival got really dark because it was in my brain. If you lose, you stop breathing. So I had to keep winning at the game or else I was going to stop breathing. That's what this stuff does to your head. It's crazy if you do too much. So I survived the games, apparently, because I'm still here, right? And then I passed out for 2 days. I landed on the couch and did not wake up, did not move for 2 days. In fact, when I did wake up and get up, my back hurt because I was so still for 2 days. I was like, what truck hit me? And I had no idea that the 2 days had gone by. So I was like, okay. I got through it. I looked at my husband and I was like, okay, I think I better do a little bit less next time. He's like, I can't believe you're going to take it again. He goes, I thought for sure there's no way she's going back to that. So I went and dosed myself the way I was supposed to. So that was kind of my fun little first time with RSO. Now I help people get their RSO and help them manage their disease with it. And I'm always like, do not be an overachiever on your first dose. Promise, please. Trust me. Take as less is more with this. So my journey began finally. So after 240 grams of RSO over a 1 year period, I went from stage 4 multiple metastatic cancers to no evidence of disease in a year with just RSO. This was all during COVID time. So when I started the RSO, I actually was afraid. And to be honest with you, I was afraid to give up my chemotherapy. I was afraid to stop doing the traditional medicine because it was all I knew. I only knew that, and it kept me alive. And I had this relationship with this medical community and this relationship with these drugs that kept me alive. And yeah, I was scared to break up with it. I was scared to end it. And so I actually didn't have the strength to do that. I begged my doctor to let me keep doing a little bit of chemotherapy with the Rick Simpson oil. And he was like, Jen, I was like, just please. But the universe had different plans, and COVID happened. And I got COVID on top of, having cancer and being immune suppressed and all of the stuff that came with it. they wouldn't let me in the hospital to do my chemo when I tested positive, and I got it very at the beginning when they really didn't know. And I wasn't able to go in, so my doctor sent me home. He goes, A, I don't think they're treating us right here. I think people need to move. They need to be on their stomachs. They don't need to be locked into a room. He's like, I really believe we could do something different. And B, the only reason to be here would be if you needed a ventilator, and guess what? With your cancer status, they won't give it to you. So why stay? So I went home, and he sent me home with oxygen and steroids for the IV and, pulse ox machine, everything so we can monitor the whole situation. And I said to my daughter, I don't care how sick I get, you give me my Rick Simpson every day. By the way, at this point, I should have rephrased this. At this point, I was doing it with a suppository as well because I learned that I could get a higher therapeutic dose with a suppository. So at this point, I was doing about 1 gram a day with a suppository, and then some at night orally, because that oral trip that did not jazz me up at all. So that's what made me research, how else can I take this stuff? Because I don't want to do this anymore. So I was doing a suppository. So my poor daughter, I'm like, Maddie, I don't care if I can't walk, if I can't move, I can't breathe. Please make sure I get my RSO every single day. And she did. I got very sick from COVID. I was very, very, very sick. I probably should not have survived. And I do believe one of the reasons I did survive is because of the RSO. The anti-inflammatory properties protected my lungs. I did stop breathing twice, but I do believe if it weren't for that RSO, I definitely would not have survived that COVID, how sick I got. Flash forward 7 weeks later, my doctor said to me, come on in, let's see where you're going. But I kept testing it positive for COVID, even though after 7 weeks I felt fine, I was non-symptomatic. I kept testing positive for another 2 months for some reason. They wouldn't let me in the hospital then either. That's how early it was. They were like, no. I'm like, it's fine with me. I don't want the chemo anyway. So I just kept treating with the RSO, By the time I finally got back into the hospital, my doctor was like, okay, let's take a look and see what's going on. I did a scan. All of my tumors had shrunk. Every single tumor in my body was smaller. And we just looked at each other, and I was just like, what is going on here? This stuff, what I said to him was, this shit works. I was like, this is insane. I've never had this kind of reduction. So we just looked at each other. I'm like, peace out. I'm out of here. Never went back. He also, by the way, quit his job as an oncologist and moved to Israel to research RSO because they have the legalities there are better and they can actually do some real research. So he went to learn more, and I just said, I'm just going to keep doing this stuff. And I got rid of my cancer. Stage 4, metastatic, multiple metastatic, year later, 240 grams later, no evidence of disease. So I was like, yeah, it was great, thank you. And it was, so I said F you to 2 things when that happened, cancer and the pharmaceutical industry. I was like, I'm out, I'm not doing this anymore. And my daughter and I traveled the whole country, and we went and learned about I knew nothing about marijuana. I knew nothing about any of it. I just knew it made me better. I just knew it cured my cancer, and I needed to know why, how. I needed to know more. So we took some time and just learned over a year period and learned a lot. And then I took some courses and kind of put out the practical stuff into the mental note. I just kind of had to have it all make sense. And now I travel all over and share my story and help others do the same. Unfortunately, I got more phone calls than I can handle. You can only help so many people, and that's the real hard part, right? So once I started sharing my story, a couple things happened. I got about 15 cease and desist letters from pharmaceutical companies that I'd worked for in the past. That was fun. And they tried to stop me from sharing the unbelievable medical benefit of this humble plant. I mean, this is no joke, and I think it's threatening to them. But flash forward, I just keep going and keep going and keep going. So I started helping people get their medicine and helping them learn and navigate. And I still do that. My daughter and I, that's our passion project. We have about 100 families at a time that we work with. That's about all we can manage as 2 people that dedicate a lot of our time to them. And then, as one gets better, we can, add in others, and we're grateful to be able to do that. It's a real passion project that we both love. I work with a couple of great growers. I work with a couple of great companies that provide some really good product. Can you believe this? Here's this. I mean, this is when my mind starts going, so I apologize. But I am gonna say, there are some people out there, some bad people that are telling you they're selling you RSO, and it's not RSO. And these are to sick people who need this for their lives. So that was the other part of this whole journey is I was probably at some point taking olive oil, and then you just started, and then I learned to get it tested, all of that, that was all processed for me. But there's a lot of people, I get calls all the time, they're like, I spent $1,500 on this 30 grams of RSO, and they said I'd make it better, and I just looked at it, and I'm like, oh, that's not RSO. That's hard, that's a tough one, so we're trying to be better with that too. Getting out there and letting people know, there's a lot of scammers out there, be careful, where you get your medicine. So I partnered with somebody, and this is what we do. That was a lot of information. I'm gonna pause for a second. Do you guys have any questions for me? Yeah, right in front, I didn't say.
Do you keep taking it every day?
It's a good question. So yes. So back up, a little bit. You do take a maintenance dose. So, therapeutic doses. Well, one cycle of RSO is to take 60 grams of it within a 90-day period. It doesn't matter how you take it. You can take it with a suppository, you can take it orally, but 60 grams within 90 days, because there's a ramp up, period. And then what I would do a cycle and then get a scan and be like, okay, we still aren't quite there, but we're showing improvement. So I did 4 cycles. That's why it took me so long. But once you get to a place where you're in your, either better, no items disease, tumors are not, they've shrunk a lot, they're not growing, whatever you deem success to be in your journey, then you go on a maintenance dose. So some people do a little bit every day. Some people do, some 3 or 4 times a week. Everybody kind of has their way of doing it. Unfortunately, what I did, and this is the second part of the story, and this is actually, to me, even more incredible, is I stopped taking my maintenance dose because I was so worried about all the people that I was helping, and I'd get phone calls of crying moms and with sick children, and and I was like, oh, they're way sicker than me, they need my medicine. So I'd send everybody all my medicine, and at one point, one day, my husband was like, when's the last time you took your medicine? You're giving your medicine to everybody. And so, unfortunately, I got very lazy with my maintenance dose, and because of my genetic disorder, I did get cancer again. And it came back with a vengeance. I came back in the form of a glioblastoma, which is a very, very, very aggressive brain cancer. That one shocked me. I was like, shit. All right, I'm gotta do my RSO. My mom's like, wait a minute, no. She's like, I put up with this nonsense that you've been doing, and you made yourself better, and I'm really happy for you, but this is a glioblastoma, you don't mess with it. I'm like, I know, but I trust this plan. I trust it. I know it can make me better, and I trust it. It's done heavy. I should have already been dead. The heavy lifting's been done. So I had to go back on another round. I had to go back on another cycle again myself. This time it only took 1 cycle, 60 grams to get rid of a glioblastoma. No evidence of disease except for a tiny little, they think it's some sort of scarring from the tumor that was in there, but it's not an active tumor. So I did that. That one was a scary one because that's a very aggressive cancer, but I did that one with a suppository, oral, and a nasal spray. I made a nasal spray out of it. And it blew it right up my nose. Not fun. I've never done heroin a day in my life, but in the movies, I've seen people do it. And exactly what happens when they would do it, the actors, the eyes go in the back of the head, try blowing RSO up your nose. That same result. Same results. It was very intense, not fun, didn't feel great, but it worked. And the reason we know it worked is because when I started the RSO, I just was for the glio, it was just my brain, it was just oral and suppository. And I kept thinking, I read somewhere about a nasal spray, and I was like, I bet that would be brilliant for a glioblastoma. It's like a direct hit. Like, I'm gonna try it. Well, that took a couple hits or misses too, and that wasn't fun. But we saw such a difference in the rate of shrinking of that tumor after I added the nasal spray. So now, pretty much everybody who I talk to who has a brain tumor, I'm like, we're doing a nasal spray. Yeah. So yes, now I'm back on a maintenance dose because I am healthy again. And I'm not forgetting my maintenance dose ever again. And I love y'all. I love anyone. I will be here to help anyone, but I'm not giving you my medicine because I'm not doing that again. So that's my journey. That's how I ended up with RSO. RSO is a great product. It's straight THC. It's aggressive. It's scary. It's not a party trick. But it heals a lot. And we are learning more and more and more, especially in the oncology space. It is working. There are thousands, tens of thousands of people that are doing it successfully for their cancer. That's where most of my knowledge base is. It looked like you had a question. Oh, you were stretching? Oh, okay.
I have actually 2 questions. Did you get a COVID vaccine at any point in that?
No.
And the other question I have is, you talked about the RSO and chemo,
Mhm.
you were doing both at the same time?
And to be honest with you, most people do that.
Okay, because I thought you said you got off when you
So I begged him to keep me on because I was so afraid to give it up. And we did some research, and one of the things we learned is that RSO can be organ protective while you're having toxicity or chemotherapy. So he was like, let's see, but we're gonna monitor you closely. And then I got COVID. So, I mean, I was on both for only maybe less than a month.
with the Cleo, did you have?
No, Cleo, I just did RSO.
Okay.
Yeah, just that's it.
Yeah, me.
Oh, thank you.
Question on, we were talking
Mhm.
briefly before. Me with the Crohn's and
Mhm.
having a successful journey and titration off of, getting off, going into remission, having the Crohn's and pain, managing off the opiates. That was unbelievable for my journey, except the cost. It cost me over $30,000 over about an 18-month period. It was successful.
Mhm.
Yeah, cost prohibitive. I'm just.
Yeah, that is
those
for
are the
most
things that we
people.
talk about, because what on a simple scale, what would you say your maintenance costs are?
So the maintenance is very inexpensive because the maintenance dose for me and for many people is very small. It's just about, you've restored your health, you've restored that endocannabinoid system, you've done so much that you're in a, that's why you just need less as you're going on. When I was,
Not hard.
no, yeah, like when I was fighting cancer, I was up doing 1 gram to 1.5 grams a day, dependent on where I was in my journey. And maintenance dose for me is 1 gram every month.
But a gram.
So it depends, anywhere between, you can get it from, I've seen it 75. The woman who I get mine from she charges 100 a gram.
So 700 to 1,000 when you were at your sickest.
Right. But it's a short period of time. And there's a lot of good people out there that will actually make it for less than that, especially those kind of in the more underground world. They will do much better for pricing. The people who do this, these are the heroes. Like, people always say to me, like yourself, and I appreciate it. I get up on stage, I talk, I share my journey, I talk to people on the phone. The heroes are the people who make it and get it into the hands of the people who need it. And those are people that are doing it out of the goodness of their heart, they're passionate, and they will work with people. Every single person I've worked with is always working with people to get the medicine first and figure out the cost as best as whatever everybody can do, because there's operating costs for them too. But she's great. I mean, the girl I work with now, who I finally found after many years, and I send everybody to, I'm always looking, anybody out there who's doing RSO, please let me know, because the more people I can send to someone who does RSO and will make good RSO, the more people I can help. Because I can take on more people if I'm just having the conversation, sharing my story. They like me because, to be honest with you, every single person who I speak to and work with, one of the first things they say is, you've given me hope. Because I'm supposed to be dead of the same disease they have. And I think hope is half the battle, if not more, for people. So I like that I get to do that piece, but I love handing them over to somebody who can make their medicine. And sometimes because of the nature of it, They may not want their name out there, they may not, so, I mean, I'll do it however I can, but I'm always looking for good people, good RSO makers, because, they're tough. I think you seem like you're over there, you kind of know RSO very well,
I've been making it for a long time.
yeah, so you know that there's a lot of scammers out there.
Oh, God.
It's awful. I've seen people die thinking they were taking RSO, and they aren't. Horrible. It's very expensive for many people, cost prohibitive for some people, and it's for their life. And they're giving someone all the money they have and sometimes out funding for it, doing fundraisers, doing all the things to get their medicine, and then they're spending that money on something that wasn't even what they're supposed to be having. And it's just, it's despicable. So yeah, so once, really, like with many of this stuff, really, once you get the body healed and you get yourself back in system and you're balanced, less is more. You don't need to keep taking that much. So the maintenance cost of this is really, in my opinion, in this industry, in the oncology space, meaning, I think it's less expensive. So here's what I'll tell you is, after 28 years of having cancer, with health insurance, never a day without it, always had health insurance, I was $250,000 in debt and still sick. When I did RSO, I spent maybe 25,000 and I'm alive.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what, like, and that's what I say to people. I'm like, I know this sounds like it's expensive. I know it does, but how much have you paid in copays? How much have you paid in this? Hospital stays at $500 or $1,000 a whack. Our system is very flawed. We all know this. And we all are all collectively here trying to find and come together and share resources and share ideas and to heal. And that's something that I really believe with everything that I have. That's something like RSO. There's a lot of other great, cannabis products out there, but RSO is really powerful, guys. It's super, super powerful. My husband uses it now. He also, I didn't share this with you, but he also ended up getting bladder cancer, believe it or not. And we took him to the oncologist, and he was telling him, he had the aggressive one where they should have taken his bladder out, he had a huge tumor. And in the middle of this, the doctor's like, okay, we need to take your bladder out, we need to have chemotherapy. And I listened, and my husband looked at me and goes, we're not doing this shit, right? I'm like, no, we're not doing any of that stuff. I brought him home, RSO, we treated him with RSO. He is now cancer-free. And his doctor has said, he's on his last appointment, which was 7 months ago, he said, I have no idea how you're alive, and I have no idea how you still have your bladder. I just can't even process this. And I was like, you just don't want to know. You do know, because I told you what I did, so you know what I did to my husband, He also has a degenerative back issue, and they wanted to do surgery, and we're managing his pain. They had him on Vicodins, Percocets, at one point Oxycontin, they put him on, which I actually, you ready for this one, guys? I launched Oxycontin for Purdue. I was on the launch team. I mean, I look back at some of the shit I did, and I'm like, who was that person? It's so amazing to me how my life just completely changed with just the introduction of the one plant that people are afraid to talk about. People are afraid to believe in. People are afraid to say, I was afraid until I was on death's door. I was afraid, to learn more about it and to take it all in. I just want to make sure I'm not going over on time. To learn all about it and to have, I was afraid to try it because I didn't understand it. It's the most misunderstood plant out there, in my opinion. The name of my company that I have as a consultant is called The Humble Plant, because this plant is the most humble plant in the world. It is so modest. It has no idea what it does, and it does everything. It's amazing. So, yes, so we used it with my dad. So I do work with, I work with quite a few people. Again, my passion project because of feeling bad. By the way, I did launch OxyContin, but when I saw what was happening, I did also walk away from Purdue. So when we launched it, it was an oncology drug, and I thought, I'm gonna help people. I'm gonna help my people, people who are suffering with cancer. And that was by far the biggest disappointment in my life. It took me a long, long, long time to recover from feeling really bad about that journey that I was a part of, unknowingly until I figured it out. But when I figured it out, I walked away. I was like, this is not right. You know, you're not supposed to go to a doctor's office with people, like shooting up in the parking lot or like crushing pills. I was like, what is happening here? The movies the way they depict it, it's pretty spot on for anyone who's watched any. Dope Sick is the best one. If you want, 100%. Dope Sick, I've watched them all, and Dope Sick is the one I think that does it the best from everyone's perspective. It's a Hulu. Painkiller was good. It was a little, yeah, I thought Painkiller was just a little embellished. Dope Sick is spot on. And the thing about Dope Sick that's great is it does it from the rep's perspective, the patient's perspective, the physician, and the physician who gets addicted. So it covers, it's profound. Really good one. So I don't even know where we were. Where did we start? Where were we? We were talking about RSO maintenance dose. Yes, so the maintenance dose is an important piece. I learned that the hard way. You asked me did I answer your 2 questions? Yes, vaccination and. So this country really sucks at it. Yeah. Implications are ones that are doing it. Oh, publications. So in Israel, they're allowed to publish their findings. So anything that's being done in Israel will be able to be published. Unfortunately, one of the biggest RSO studies was happening when we all know what happened in Israel recently. And so everything is at a halt. In fact, my glio stuff is part of that study. But unfortunately, we're going to have to get back to it. But yes, there are countries that will allow for publication. This country is just beginning to do only if in partnership with a pharmaceutical company. So they're all, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you can believe that data if you want, I don't think Santa Claus is gonna be walking in here anytime soon and, So you take it, Israel to me, from what I've learned, and if anyone has any other information, I'm always wanting to learn more and more. But so far, everything I've seen out of Israel is definitely the best. And most valid so far. Yeah.
Did you switch to a suppository method to keep from getting high?
Yes.
And another question, did you see a difference between fecal and RSO?
I do.
Yeah, why don't you take that one, because I don't know.
The difference between FICO and RSO is the solvent used. FICO is used with grain alcohol. It's made for human consumption. A lot of places they can't get, like in Canada, they can't get grain alcohol.
Right.
In certain spots they can, but for the most part, they'll use acetone, they'll use rubbing alcohol, whatever they can get to that'll break it down. It all gets evaporated away at some point, but I like the FICO part myself because if it's literally done right, all that solvent's boiled out of there at some point. But you know what, if there's a little bit of grain alcohol stuff in it, it's not gonna hurt you, it's not gonna get you drunk, you won't even know. It just is what it is.
Yeah. I don't know how RSO is made, but thank you for taking that, because I have not worked with the other.
From anything I've ever done or seen, that's the only difference.
Yeah, good, thank you for handling that one. What was your first, suppository. And the reason, when you do a suppository, you do get body high and fatigue. I mean, it's not like you come out of it scot-free, but you don't have the crazy head high. And I was a single mom at the time when I, was doing this, and I was married, so let me rephrase, I was married, but choosing to raise my daughter pretty much, because she was an elite athlete. And so I was putting the time in because my husband was getting ready to retire and go to Florida. Long story, but either way, it was me that was mostly raising her, and I had to be awake. I had to be coherent. I had to raise my kid. I was driving her to gymnastics practices, and we live in Woodbury, and I was driving her to Stanford for gymnastics. You can't do that on RSO if you take it orally. Yeah.
It also doesn't go through your liver.
And that was the other thing,
or your
yeah.
Kidneys. It gets pretty much directly into your blood.
Direct into your bloodline without the crazy head high.
So you can use more?
You can get to a therapeutic dose much quicker with a suppository than you would orally. At least in my experience. Would you agree? Yeah.
You're not gonna get that high. I literally just was talking to a woman, she's got pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and she went to the dispensary and she got RSO there. She took maybe maybe a tenth in a month. And every time she tried any of it, she was.
Yeah.
Not like you, when you took half of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
she was just like that
Yeah.
for days. She's like, I'm sick, throwing up, sweating, not feeling good, like this is bad. And
And she's still being supposed to.
yeah, well, I don't know if she actually got that far yet, but I switched her up into a more of a CBD type of Pico than a higher THC.
Yeah, and the suppositories are really great because you can get to like, to that therapeutic, and thank you for mentioning the CBD, because that's another thing. You know, incorporating it, doing ratios of CBD to THC also is very helpful in trying to manage the side effects really of
Yeah.
of
More
RSO.
during the day to at nighttime kind of thing.
And speaking of CBD too, I can't, I mean, I have to make sure I tell you guys, RSO is, right now, is not for everybody. We're really trying to learn more and more about it. One of the things that we know is, for an example, a hormone-driven breast cancer, the RSO can actually exacerbate that cancer. So what we have to do is counteract that with a CBD. So someone who I'm treating or working with who has a breast cancer that's hormone-driven, we'll do a 4-to-1 ratio, CBD to THC. Just because that's safer and more protective. The other thing, and I don't know if you've heard this, but the other thing I just learned, because I'm working with somebody and I was like, I gotta figure this out because this is weird, but HPV, anything that's HPV, the cancer's caused by the HPV virus, no RSO. Yeah, yeah, huh?
I have nothing. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, so that's, I've just been starting to learn about this. And then the other thing, and I don't know what your thoughts about this are, because there's two schools of thoughts with this one. Immunotherapy. Some people say you can't use RSO if you're on an immunotherapy product. And then I have worked with a lot of people like yourself who are making it and understanding it, and they'll say, I just counterbalance it with some CBD. And they have people that are doing well. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't really heard any.
No, so these are just different kind of things, theories that people are saying sometimes, and all these theories have to be checked out, because sometimes it's just someone being a jerk trying to
You
create.
know, a lot of times I might not find out everything that they're on.
And that's true.
Well, they don't even think about that as part of it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're learning, guys, we're learning together, like I said. It looks like my time is winding up, so do you guys have any other questions for me? So I stand here healthy, guys, and that's the good news. Thank you for coming to see me, to meet me today, appreciate it. And I am here in a booth. I'm at the OHO booth today, because I'm an educator for them. And so if you have questions, just come find me there. I'll be here the rest of the day today and all day tomorrow, even in the snow. Thanks, guys.
Keep trying to learn it, you know?
So you have my number.
Yeah, I just texted you.
I thought that, I was like, okay. Yep, just me. Perfect. Yep. Oh, yeah. Guys, thanks for coming in and having me. Oh, my pleasure. Yes, please do reach out. Yeah, we can help. So that's mostly who reaches out to me, that's what I talk about mostly, but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of.
I was gonna leave it.
So psychiatrics a little tricky.
Yeah, it's like when you get a.
I don't.
It was amazing.
So a lot of times, some comes to me and I'll just no. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do, you know, sometimes that mouse is actually lying, but you don't realize it until you start getting it. You know. So I usually try to do CBD. Probably some drive tea. And also
Almost, that is a very delicate one. That would require a lot of donors. Probably any other medication they would be on, I heard
Yeah.
But I have my card. Yeah, you do, okay, so here's my card. And,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
answer your question.
Yeah, that'll be on the Instagram. I don't answer.
All right, you're welcome, thank you. I'm Jen.
Nice to
Nice
meet
to meet you. Glenn, nice to meet you.
Actually, I have good friends. They're
Yep.
building their manufacturing lab right now. It's a food and beverage one. But, yeah,
Wait, where is it?
it's affinities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was,
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, right.
So you know all about it. Now, that's why.
Yep. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I would love that.
When you said you would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I just jump in.
Yeah, we don't realize.
Sometimes
We don't notice up, you need cleaning supplies.
Yeah. Gotta get it. Yes.
Yeah,
When you have an option, you should know it as well.
oh, okay. So much for the
I'm gonna do a cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't, you know,
I was always like,
and then you can just go by that.
yeah, no, that's, yeah. So we, literally, yeah, literally.
Well, that way you'd have to get it tested.
Amazing.
Go ahead, I'll let you.
Oh, no, this is.
Oh.
So.
Pharma. You're the only one, that's a little fun.
So, I mean, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, when my partner was just saying that somebody has, I'm like, find out, I can find out where it is, and just.
Okay.
It's sad, but there's a few of them, if you look outside of there, even Oregon,
Okay.
Oregon, Washington.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, we're doing fun, all kinds of fun stuff.
So I purchased a thing called a Sister.
Yeah. Yeah, usually green light. Yeah.
I'm glad that you did.
She had
I'm glad that
to
you did.
pull him, and then she went to back out.
That's the best.
I just look like I worked. I recognize that. Yeah, that's. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of things. Some guys do it, but there's guys out there that do it. And that actual, that group, there's some other guys that are.
You guys are out of my league on this one.
No, it's just.
Thank you.
Please reach out, I'm Red also.
Oh, sorry.
We're at the end cap, Farm and Garden, Palm Coast Farm and Garden.
All right, perfect.
All right, that sounds great,
Thank you so much.
But,
Yes, please do.
bring your own machine, it's a 2 liter. And when I do it,
It's a little bit different.
Nice to meet you.
I'll get a little bit. We can do it either way. I like to do it on the start. I think it gets close back a little bit. And then they pull it out of there, I filter
Yeah, I
it.
would love to. I would love to learn from you too. I mean, all the different deliveries of everything,
Yeah, that's how I try, I used to try, to,
What basically looks like this.
That's the new version.
circles, how do you make something a square? And you're done. Can't go any further.
Exactly.
That's the end. Done. It dies off. Blah, blah, blah. Our genes. Figure out.
Yeah, I would love to like
Many of us
collaborate on
found it-
something or figure out how to each other and work together, and that would be amazing.
Yeah, this is great.